Scott. Welcome everyone to today's webinar from Marga Systems, and good morning or good afternoon to depending on where you are. So today we're here to discuss the 5 steps to get enterprise to embrace Office 365 and also to understand how this would result in effective collaboration amongst your teams. So it's mainly around adoption or consumption, the way Microsoft terms it. So before we move ahead, maybe a quick intro of me and Sam, who are presenters today. I'm Chirag Bharate, and I'm a Director of Product Engineering here at Marga. I look after all the products, assets, frameworks, and offerings that Marga has created in-house, and I generally talk to clients to understand and then create more offerings and solutions for them as we go forward. So that's primarily what I do. Sam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Chirag. Hello, everyone. This is Sam David, working as Senior Adoption Specialist. I have been with Marga for more than 3 years, and my primary responsibility here at Marga is to help enterprises adopt social software. I provide consultation for adoption of enterprise social and mobile applications, and I'm also involved with the delivery of the adoption framework for enterprises. And that is all about me. Over to you, Chirag.
Great. So in case you're wondering who's Marga Systems, we are a technology and services provider, mainly in the enterprise collaboration, mobility, workflow, and digitalization area. We have been around for over a decade now, helping customers across the globe, but we have our presence in US and a large delivery center in India. And from a technology stack perspective, we work on various technologies that primarily focused on Microsoft and IBM stack. We also happen to be a premium business partner for IBM as well as Microsoft. So that's a quick overview of Marga. With that, we can jump into the agenda for today's session. We will start talking about Office 365, the market trends that we see, especially around the adoption area, and then the reason for why we're discussing adoption and adoption of Office 365 in general is what we'll cover. We will, in the second half of the session, we'll cover this 5-stage framework that we developed in Marga and is also based on a lot of general frameworks available in the around the world, but specific to adoption of Office 365. Sam would take us through some of his experiences from actual engagements that we have done with customers, helping them to adopt Office 365 and associated services. And then we will also talk about what does Microsoft offer, what help do they provide, and how we complement to those services and solutions. So before we do that, it is important for us to understand the audience that we are talking to today, because it helps us keep the next 40-45 minutes relevant to majority of the audience. So we would run a quick poll which would help us understand what is the split of the audience that we are seeing today. So Scott, can you help us run the first poll, please?
All right, the first poll is up on your screen. At what stage is your organization in the Office 365 journey? So select one. So are you considering a move to Office 365? You have 365 but minimal usage. You're using 365 for mail but not for other features. You're using Office 365 extensively and have seen adoption challenges, or none of the above. So we have already half of the attendees have voted. This is good. We do appreciate this feedback, and I'll share the results with you in just one moment. Let's get a couple more votes in, and I'll share the results now. So of the participants that voted, 38% are considering a move to Office 365. Only 8% have minimal usage, and 8% are using, but not for other features. And 23% are using extensively and have adoption challenges, and 23% none of the above. So education time. This is perfect.
Great. So thanks, Scott, for that. I think it's a healthy mix of audience that we have today, and I believe the discussion would be relevant to all of us here because we are not talking just about mail in Office 365, we're talking about the collaboration aspect as well. So I think most of us are aware, but just to get a quick recap, Office 365 as a leading cloud offering has been doing really well, especially in the last couple of years. And the statistics that you see on your screen are really a proof of that, with over 125,000 organizations actively using it and 100 million active users, which is a fairly healthy number for a platform like this, a cloud-based platform like this, and it is only set to grow from here. So that is one of the main reasons why the challenges that we face with Office 365 are becoming more and more widespread, because a lot of organizations are hitting upon those as they move to Office 365. And we take a look at the adoption trend. This is coming from a survey which was conducted last year, and it really shows you that not only there is a lot of widespread adoption of Office 365 features, but there is also healthy adoption of the individual components in Office 365, especially the Exchange Online and the OneDrive for Business. It's not definitely at the peak. There is still a lot of scope for improving adoption within these organizations, because this is average spec around the different organizations that were surveyed. So there is a lot of scope for improving the adoption within these enterprises. And we can see this is really a representative of the market trend where Yammer sees the lowest usage or lowest adoption. And that's really the case overall. With Office 365 Teams coming to the picture, I think Yammer usage would drop even further because the use case becomes diluted. So this is the reality in the market. But what I wanted to also focus on is the left-hand side of the screen, where you see what the organizations which were surveyed termed as the key reasons or key challenges that they expect to solve by moving to Office 365. And if you just read through these, the top 4 or 5 challenges all talk about reduced costs in hardware, savings from removing third-party software, reduced maintenance cost, the manpower cost that you are able to reduce. Now, if you see clearly, this is definitely good when you're justifying for the first year when you're moving to Office 365, because what you're essentially talking about is the benefits of moving from an on-prem solution or a legacy software to a cloud solution, which gives all these benefits, and it's a well-known fact. So the first year becomes a great case study, because you can justify that why you are moving to Office 365, why you are investing into licenses. But the real challenge, in our opinion, is going to be in the following year, especially for the IT departments who drive Office 365 and are owning it up and are responsible for renewals, justifying the cost associated with renewals, because that is where after the first hype is gone and after you have proven that you have done enough savings by moving to a cloud platform, now is the time where you will have to prove that this platform is being used effectively and it is bringing value to your organization. So that's where the adoption challenge hits most of the IT departments and organizations, and many times that is at the point where they start looking at adoption seriously. But that's what we want to educate our audience here, and maybe try to change the behavior so that they can start looking at adoption even before they think of making a move to Office 365. That's the planning phase. So in general, why do we talk about adoption? We talked about Office 365 and the challenges of when you come to renewals and you have to justify the ROI that you get from the investment. But what you see in this graph is the typical nature of any enterprise collaboration software that is released in large organizations. This is the trend that they typically follow, where there's an initial hype, there is an initial uptake where you don't need to do much and users do come and start using the platform, and there is a healthy mix of conversations happening. But if we let that continue without putting enough investments in nurturing the social software or nurturing the platform, then at a certain point you would start seeing regression. And once the regression starts to happen, there are very few options for you to bring it back on track for a sustained adoption. So what we generally recommend is that you need to re-engineer your processes, and you need to rethink how your organization's business processes need to be brought onto a platform like Office 365 before this point, so that you won't hit the regression at all. And another common conception is that adoption is measured by the number of users who come onto the platform and use it. But that's again not a very clear measure, because just because X number of users are coming to the platform today, it doesn't guarantee that they have enough pull to come back to the platform and do some meaningful work or conversation. So the way we define it is the number of active use cases. Now, a use case can be anything. It can be a business process which your organization has, which you brought onto Office 365, or it could be a collaboration case like file sharing. And then the number of active users per use case, the multiplication of this is what will give you the real quantum of adoption that is happening in your organization. So this is the measure that we typically adhere to, and our framework also follows ways for influencing this measure, which we term as the real measure for adoption. So moving on, I think we talked a lot about adoption, and just to make it clear, people in the Microsoft world also call it consumption to a great extent, because you have bought the licenses, but what is the nature of consumption? How are your users using or consuming those services? But it's one and the same thing. What it effectively boils down to is it's a habit in the organization, and we form these habits over a long period of time. So if you are using your legacy file sharing systems or a network-based file sharing system, it's a habit, and then it forms a culture in the organization. When you are trying to move this entire organization to a cloud platform with co-editing, sharing on the go sort of features, you are effectively trying to alter this culture, but it does not happen by itself. So what we want to emphasize is that it's again follows the same pattern. You have to repeatedly message the audience. You have to repeatedly go and help the workforce to form a new attitude and then a new culture of collaborating and sharing in the organization using a cloud platform like Office 365. So we have been doing this for a long time now, and we also have a matured practice in Marga, which is specifically dedicated to adoption of enterprise software. And Office 365 is one of the key platforms that we drive or propagate for adoption usage or adoption services. So what you see on the screen is what we like to call it as a spear framework, but it's really a 5-stage framework which allows you to have a structured approach to rolling out a platform, enterprise collaboration platform into your organization, and ensuring that you have sustained adoption over a period of time. The way it differs from other approaches is that we are not talking about a consultative engagement where we are just talking about telling you what to do. This is more about going through the entire journey. And it starts with strategizing, then we move to prepare, enable, activate, and sustain or reinforce. These are the 5 stages that we really go through, or any organization goes through for that matter. I would go through each of these in the next few slides in a little more detail. As you can see, each of this stage has sub-elements or sub-activities which you need to really perform to be effective in that stage. And that's what really counts, how effectively you plan, how effectively you prepare and enable your users. So let's move into the next slide and get a quick view of what we do as part of each of these stages. So the first stage is the strategize stage, which is more around understanding or defining the strategy roadmap of your Office 365 implementation in the organization. And it starts with first understanding the culture. There is a culture assessment for where you are at and what is the ideal future state that you want to be in terms of the culture of the organization, whether you want to be a more social organization, whether you want to be an organization which is known for its speed of execution, speed of knowledge sharing, things like that. So you first identify those target goals, you get the executive alignment, you get the awareness sessions done for the executive so that they align to what you're trying to do and what it's in alignment with the organization goals. And that's when you define the social goals. Now, what social goals means is what you foresee Office 365 being used for prominently in your organization in the future. What do you foresee Office 365 driving in a big way in your organization? And there is a method to do this goal definition or planning. And if you really think of it, many times software vendors come up with a pitch based on the features that the product offers. And they talk a lot about features. You can do file sharing, you can sync on your mobile, or you can um, have wikis or blogs which help you to share information. But that is rarely the case when you're thinking at the organization level. You are not thinking of the product and its features. You're mainly talking about the business case or the business use case. And that could be something as simple as, I want to increase the amount of accessible knowledge within the organization. Now, that's a broad use case. It is definitely a goal that most of the organizations which are trying to innovate follow. They want to make the knowledge more accessible and more open to the entire workforce. Now, that is a broader use case, and it encompasses a lot of collaboration scenarios. Like, just to make knowledge accessible, first you need to ensure that your offline knowledge repositories come and sit into this platform. You need to ensure that effective search is implemented onto the platform so that people can get to the knowledge faster. Or it could be about the way, the hierarchy of information that is organized so that it makes it easier for you to filter through and get the information. So these are different collaboration scenarios which ultimately map onto one or more software components and features. And that's where it really maps onto the platform like Office 365. So instead of getting bogged down by the details of or the number of apps that one platform like Office 365 provides, I think the approach should be to go with the business view or the business use case driving your roadmap. And in this journey, we use something called as a collaboration almanac. We also have a sample of this, which you can get for yourself when you sign up for the feedback later in this session. But what it helps us to do is, it is a structured way of defining your goals, the social goals. You can define a proof of concept, which will validate that what you want to achieve as part of the goal, and then you also give a plan of how you want to scale. So first you define the goal, then you say that, okay, if I do these 2-3 things, I can validate that this goal is being met. And then how can I scale that across the organization? What kind of awareness campaigns and training sessions I need to do for the end users? So that all falls in the prepare section. Also, other things that follow in the prepare section is defining the governance roadmap, which is very important in on such a platform. What are your organization's governance standards and how you're mapping it onto the Office 365 platform. There are a few other stages, but I want to emphasize on the super user choice. Now, these are super users or champions, as they're commonly known, are really advocates of the platform who would help you to take it and run with it so that other users follow them. And this is what creates the avalanche effect in the network, and you will see rapid widespread adoption. But first you need to identify the right champions and nurture them, enable them to drive the other users, train the trainer sort of philosophy. There are multiple ways to identify super users or champions. Some of them are more manual, where you look at each department and identify the key people. We have also worked or partnered with analytics firm which analyzes your communications from your emails and other interactions and gives you a map of who are the key contributors or most active users in your organization, which you can quickly then populate into your super user community. So there are multiple ways to do that, but whatever way you do, this is one of the most important aspects of preparing for your adoption journey. The next stage is enable, where once you have identified these use cases, you want to enable the broader audience. And like I talked about, we have to enable the super users who will in turn then enable a broad set of audience. But at the same time, you need to ensure that the users are onboarded onto these use cases, and there are constant awareness drives. This could be on the site sessions, or it could be posters, videos, and infographics. We do all of these activities when we run a adoption services campaign with our customers, and it gets a lot of traction and it gets a lot of visibility, where users then come on and solve their doubts and then get on to effectively using the platform, which they would normally not take the pains of going and finding out themselves. Moving to the next stage is activate. So by activate, what we mean is that I talked about collaboration use cases, and we believe that each use case has to go through a full cycle of defining it, then preparing for it, and activating the use case, which is a formal way of launching the use case, formal way of telling users that from tomorrow you should use this platform for your business process, whatever that business process is, whether it's just file sharing or whether it's a more complex process which involves your sales team or marketing teams. It's about identifying the use case, giving out the communication, and then having a sustained effort to handhold the users so that they can ramp on and latch on to that process. After that, it's a more ongoing activity where a repeat visit of the user automatically is affected by the fact that they need to come and do their work onto this platform. And then the last stage, which talks about sustain or reinforce, which is the long-term effect, which I talked about. It's not about just a week or a month of program where you do a lot of activities around awareness and then you just leave the network to grow and build by itself. That's not how it really works. You need to have a sustained effort. You need to invest in building the community of champions and community of leaders, and then you need to add rewards and recognition to it. So what we have observed is a lot of organizations have rewards and recognition program associated with their intranets and other platforms where they recognize the most active users, the people who are contributing the most, who are blogging the most. While that works in motivating individuals, what has been more effective is motivating teams as a whole. So this rewards and recognitions targeted towards the teams that are most effective on the platform and getting more work done faster in a more collaborative way. I think that's what gets us the traction that we need, and that's what gets the most adoption out of such situations, what we have seen in the past. So these are the 5 key phases that an organization goes through, and we have seen different situations where you need to really go in and just be the supporting element in the entire journey, and that makes a lot of difference. Apart from having the planning and prepare, enable, activate, and sustain going. So while we look at this framework, I think it would be also important to talk about how it was applied in cases at a customer situation. Now, if you talk of Office 365, some of the common situations that I have heard are around customers rolling out Office 365 and then things getting out of control with the file sharing situation where there are too many ways to share a file with your team or with your colleagues. There is, you can email them, you can share it on the OneDrive for Business, you can share it in SharePoint sites, or now you can share it in Office 365 Teams. And when you're talking about Teams, there is also Office 365 groups. So there is a whole confusion about what to use when and for what. And this is one of the classic cases that we have tried to address with some of our customers. Another case is where we have seen customers in the past who get onto a new platform like Office 365 and they are excited to use all the latest features. So you're excited by Teams, you love the capability that it brings to collaboration, and you want your organization to use Teams. But then when you go back and look at what they are doing today, they are doing file-based or network-based file shares which are structured based on departments and hierarchies, and that's where they are sharing their information. Now, the simple suggestion to such a situation is that you cannot migrate such a structured data into a Teams scenario because, for example, Office 365 Teams is a platform which grows over a period of time. It's more of a timeline where you start sharing information, you start collaborating over that information, and that's how the information builds, the channels build. You can't migrate a 10 GB of storage with all your data onto a Office 365 Teams sort of scenario. So you'll still have to go to SharePoint or a OneDrive for Business solution to migrate your existing data and then let organically build your collaboration over something like Teams channels and things like that. So so that's something that Sam would also discuss when he's talking about specific customer situations where we have worked in the past, and he has been the adoption specialist working with them. So over to you, Sam.
Sure, thanks, Chirag. I'm going to start off with a poll to understand the adoption challenges that you may have in your organization. Scott, can you please bring up the poll on our screens?
Okay, the next poll is now on the screen. So this is a multi-select poll. What is the most confusing or troublesome area of Office 365? Is it file sharing, organizing collaboration, excuse me, keeping up with new features released frequently, or trouble to adapt to Office 365 when coming from other platforms? So select one or more on this one. All right, getting a lot of responses here. And given the audience, I'm not surprised at the results so far. So I think we have as many votes in we're going to get. Oh, we have more votes than the first poll. That's great. Okay, I'm going to share the results. So 40% say file sharing is the most confusing, troublesome area. 60% say organizing collaboration. 47% keeping up with new features, and 53% trouble adapting to Office 365 coming from another platform.
Great, thank you, Scott. Well, it's not actually surprising when we talk to our customers. We quite hear from them about the challenges with understanding teams against groups against SharePoint. So, the polls actually, the results were more or less similar to the sentiments that we generally hear in the industry. Right. With that note, let's move along. Now let's talk about our experiences in a couple of our with a couple of our key customers. The first one is a utilities-based company based out of Europe. They have over 100 branches all over the world. They had just migrated their mails to Office 365, and since the top management found that Microsoft provides them an option to share files and collaborate, they also migrated all their files from a legacy document management system that they had been using for more than 7 years. Since the workforce had been so much accustomed to using the legacy system, they were not so much familiar with the new age collaborative features such as co-authoring and collaborating within a document. Even after Office 365 was made available for use, the utilization had been low and the IT help desk was receiving a lot of queries regularly. This resulted not only in lower productivity as the workforce couldn't get a hang of the collaborative platform, the ROI wasn't as great as expected. What they needed was a culture change within the organization amongst the end users. And now it was our turn to understand their business issue and to provide them with an appropriate solution. We started to work with the primary stakeholders of the organization to understand the pain points, and we created a strategy roadmap that includes the identification of appropriate elements from the adoption framework that Chirag was talking about. And this roadmap also includes a comprehensive calendar that was roughly built around the collaboration almanac. And we are going to provide this collaboration almanac as a giveaway for this webinar, and more information on this free offering will come up in a few minutes. So please hang on, we'll talk about that in some time. The adoption framework consists of more than 20 elements that accelerates adoption. However, just about a few selected activities are enough to run an adoption initiative. Identifying these elements upfront is very crucial, and that was what we did as a first step in this case. Besides, we garnered some support from the top executives of the company. Since the top executives had a good influence, they helped in removal of roadblocks in the form of early doubters and naysayers. Executives can either talk about the benefits of using Office 365, or they can start using the platform as part of their daily work. And next, a communication plan was created during the preparatory stage. This was a comprehensive plan that provides details on the types of communication, the medium, the date of broadcast, the audience, key message that needs to be delivered, and so on. And next comes the enablement phase, where we decided to conduct an awareness workshop. this was a virtual event where we could quickly demonstrate the collaborative features of Office 365. A few of the top executives shared their testimonials, and we also shared some key use cases from everyday work scenario. This resulted in an increased interest among the end users, and quite a few new users came on board as well. And next comes the activating use cases phase, which is one of the key phases in any adoption process. As part of this phase, we conducted remote end user training sessions on Skype for Business. These training sessions were use case based training sessions where the trainer walked through the different use cases from a typical workday with examples. And we also created a training course package that we label as 101 sessions. This package consists of teaser videos, demo videos, and single page help cards that can be printed out and pasted on the desks, and also a few detailed help guides. And during the final phase, a SharePoint site was created to share all training material, FAQs, and this site also helps the users to engage in conversations using the discussion boards. And when we started to complete when we were in the completion stage of this adoption initiative, the results started to show within a month, and there was a steady increase in terms of contribution, consumption, and also collaboration. The biggest metrics from this initiative was the number of files uploaded on and shared on Office 365. It actually doubled within a time span of 6 months. And now let's move on to the next case, where we talk about a customer from the United States, and they had a different issue. They were much of a smaller company with a few hundred users spread across 17 locations within North America. Since Office 365 offers a lot of options to upload and share a file in multiple ways, everyone was sharing files using different products, such as groups, SharePoints, SharePoint sites, Teams, email, OneDrive for Business, etc. And a few others used network drives to share files, and the file sharing method actually was kind of chaotic. Our team was tasked to streamline file sharing within the organization, and we provided a simpler version of the framework as a solution. First up, we conducted a public survey within the company to understand how people share their files, the purpose of sharing a file, the tool they use, and the typical scenarios where they share files. We assessed the results, and based on that, we provided a few recommendations. The primary recommendation was to bring all the files to SharePoint and make it the primary platform for sharing. OneDrive was used as a platform to share one-to-one files. While the files were being migrated, we also created a clear-cut governance policy that would provide the right access to the right people. This ensured the other applications were used sparingly only for specific exceptional use cases. And during the enablement stage, awareness drives were conducted through announcements, posters, and also with teaser videos. This helped users to understand the new policies that would be enforced sooner. Virtual training sessions were conducted using Skype for Business as part of the Activate phase, and these sessions were feature-based training sessions focusing on SharePoint sites and its features. And right now, we are planning to conduct a champions program to identify the front runners who contribute more with the recommended method of file sharing. So this is what we have done for this particular customer from the United States. And here, actually, we saw two different types of organizations with different types of business issues, and how these business problems were addressed quite differently by using the adoption framework. The bottom line is, one solution that fits all will not always work for adoption, because every organization has its own business goals, and it has its own culture, and most importantly, it has different kinds of individuals. To address an adoption issue, it is absolutely necessary to approach every organization case by case, and that is exactly we have done here in these two cases. Right, let's move to the next slide. Okay, now here is a free offering for this webinar. You can make use of this opportunity to get a one-on-one consultation from us to improve adoption in your organization. And you can also receive a free copy of the Collaboration Almanac. And this is completely free of cost. In turn, we would love to hear your feedback regarding this webinar. So you can click on the link provided in the chat section. It's already available there. And in the feedback form, you can specify if you would like to get a free consulting from us. We will get in touch with you as soon as possible. And if you provide your email addresses in the form, we will send you a copy of the Collaboration Almanac. And this can be used to create a visual adoption plan for the entire year. Okay, I'm going to give you about a minute or so to fill that up. And meanwhile, I'll hand it over back to Chirag. And thank you for your time. Over to Chirag.
Thank you, Sam. So just to add to what Sam just said, I think I just wanted to reiterate that we run these webinars, and we would really love if it stays relevant and it's useful, the information is useful. So your feedback goes a long way in defining our future webinars so that they are more interesting and more relevant. So please do give a really frank feedback. And also what he talked about, the one-on-one consulting, we love to hear the challenges from our customers, talk about them, share our best practices. It also helps us improve in our journey of helping clients with adoption. So it's definitely something that we love to do, and we'd be happy to talk to any one of you who would be willing to share where they are at, what they're planning to do, and if that is in line with what the world sees. Great. So with that, we'll move to the last part of today's session. So I just wanted to quickly cover this because we have talked a lot about adoption and Office 365. Now, in a normal case where you have a on-prem software, there is a lot of activities around deployment, training. But now we are talking about a cloud software, and Microsoft as a vendor does a lot of things to help their customers because it is also a topic relevant to them. They would love to see their customers adopting and using effectively their platform. So here are a few things that I think are relevant. First off is the Microsoft Fast Track Center. I think those of you who have already gotten into Office 365 would be aware that for 100 or more licensed customer, 100 or more user licensed customers, this is a free service that Microsoft offers where they have an army of engineers who would help you to get your users onboarded. This is really helpful, and I would recommend this to all of our attendees and customers here that they should definitely avail this facility because onboarding is a very crucial area, and any help that you can get in either fine-tuning your tenant to your requirements or defining how you want to organize your users in the Active Directory, how you want to define the whole tenant, and how you want to club your tenant with some of the externals or subsidiaries that you may have. All of these are things that the Fast Track Center definitely does in a good way, and that helps in onboarding users. We do a lot of these onboarding for our other customers and other areas, non-Microsoft, but I think in case of Microsoft, what we do is we help augment their services with more ongoing effort from our side. It's not just onboarding. Like I said, onboarding is just a point in time. After you have got beyond that, after you have all your users onto a tenant, that's when the real journey starts for making them effective on the platform and giving them a reason to come back and use the features on the platform. So that's what we try to do in association with Microsoft. But I think the onboarding is the part which they have figured out and provided a good service which everyone should avail and try to use. There are some other offerings like they've released a detailed adoption guide, and you won't be surprised to see that some of the elements that we talked in our adoption framework, which we have been doing for the last several years, also found in common with the Microsoft Adoption Guide and their recommendations, because these are realities of the world. Running a champions program is the reality of the world. You cannot miss that and still expect your adoption to work. So there are commonalities, but this is a very detailed guide which tells you what to do. How to do it is still up to the organization, and that's where we try to come in and help. But this is a great guide. I can share the links for each of these resources later. I didn't add it into the webinar, but I can share it on your emails when we send you the collaboration almanac and other things. Then obviously the partner ecosystem like us who help customers on onboarding onto Office 365, and recently they have come up with Office 365 content pack for Power BI. So we have seen this in the past where when you are driving adoption, when you're running a program, it's very crucial to get a feedback of how things are going, where do you stand, and these statistics and dashboards do just that. We have had these sort of statistics in the admin console for Office 365 for a long time, but with this content pack, Microsoft has tried to provide you more relevant and more mature set of reports and dashboards that you can directly use and for free. So this is an excellent resource. You should definitely get onto this content pack if you are someone who is driving adoption in your organization. One thing to remember, however, is that this is a point-in-time release. So what it means is that it is a package of report templates, but if new features come in and new concepts come in, that won't be covered in these reports. You would still have to go and do some of your own reports and dashboards. We definitely work on those areas. Or Microsoft at some point in future can come up with an updated version of this content pack. So that's the only thing that you should watch out for if you are adopting to the latest features that come every month or every week from Microsoft onto the tenant. So with that, I think I have covered most of the topics that we plan to cover as part of today's session, specifically focusing on adoption. We wanted to leave out a few minutes so that we can have a effective question answer session. So maybe Scott can help us with if there are any questions in the chat section, and we can try to answer them to the best of our knowledge.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Very insightful information today. Got a couple questions in the queue already. So first question is, from your past experience, what kind of business process have you seen being adopted on Office 365?
Excellent question. So I think there are a few, but I would like to talk about one that comes to my mind right now, which is the financial accounting. So we're working with a large customer having 100 plus presence in 100 plus countries, and they have these accounting teams globally, but they are governed by a central accounting group which defines the policies and principles, and they update it every quarter, and again it's published to the entire community. It's a big number of users, and the information itself is categorized into almost 2,000 pages, wiki pages, which get co-authored. So this is a big complex use case, and it was done onto a different platform where there were not many features to edit, co-edit, and then it was published as a PDF, which was then emailed to all these thousands of executives, accounting executives around the world. So this was a common case, and we helped the customer move this onto Office 365 in an effective way, so that the entire process stays the same. You have the same co-editing features, but better and more easier to do it on Office 365. And then you also are able to share it now mainly using SharePoint, so that all the accounting community can come onto the platform and consume this information without having to blast off emails to these 1,000 people with attachment every month or every quarter. So that's something that we did, especially as part of the adoption exercise, understanding the use case, helping the stakeholders, bringing the IT in with their perspective. But I would like to also highlight that it was important that they came up with this request to the IT department, and then we got onboarded onto this idea, because many a times departments try to do it themselves, and then they take some decisions or choices of features, product features or applications which may not be the best suited for their use case. So if it is just left to the departments to run their use cases onto the platform, it's not a very optimized solution, I would say.
Okay, perfect. Next question. In your customer experience slides, only 1 or 2 activities were shown, but there were a lot more in the earlier slides. Is it mandatory to choose just 1 or 2 activities?
I believe Sam can answer that.
Sure. In fact, it's not necessary to limit the number of activities. Adoption framework is basically a guideline based on which you can plan your adoption initiatives. In fact, for longer engagements for our customers, we have implemented a full-fledged adoption framework with multiple activities that are conducted either simultaneously or one after another. In fact, in the interest of time and to keep it simple, we chose simpler examples. But as I mentioned before, this framework can be tailored to fit the organizational goals of any enterprise or any organization. So it's not necessary to limit your number of activities in a particular phase.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So again, this is probably, we're getting short on time here, so if there is another question out there that somebody might have in their mind, now's the time to get it into the question section of the control panel. But we just had these 2 questions for now. We'll give us 10 more seconds here to see if someone has a follow-up question to any of these items. Again, just in case you're wondering, we did record this. If you joined the webinar late, this is a recorded webinar, and the replay will be made available to you, so that you can share this with your teams and colleagues, and it will be available. All right, and then also still active in the chat, in the chat window is the link to the feedback form, and again, the offer is still available to you for some consulting there. Okay, so it looks like pretty much everyone has had their questions answered or don't have any questions. If you do have some follow-up questions, I think if you can advance to the next slide, you can send your questions to Marga Systems. And Chirag and Sam, thank you very much for the presentation. Well done, and a lot of information. There's a lot of useful information for those companies considering a migration and looking at best practices for adoptions. So I'll give you the last word, and then we'll go ahead and end the webinar.
Hey, thanks, Scott. Thanks for running this for us today. And so I hope that this was relevant to our audience today. We definitely would try to get into details of more specific topics or specific applications inside Office 365. Today we try to focus on more the collaboration aspect, which is the mail, messaging, and SharePoint, OneDrive for Business area. There is a lot more to be talked about, the Power Apps, Power BI, Flow, and other features that are also part of the same stack, but that's for a different time per se. So I would just conclude today with, from my side, with just one suggestion that when you are doing this Office 365 adoption, and so considering the nature of Office 365, there are just too many options for users to go and explore for themselves. If you open all of that up for users, situation soon goes out of control. So from an adoption perspective, the most important advice is that once that happens, it's very difficult to come back. So just ensure that you don't go into that situation when you are in the early days of your Office 365. And thank you for coming today to the webinar.
Thank you very much, and have a great day, everybody.